Well, great to see everyone. So glad you're here today. I had a bit of I started internally laughing and it almost erupted onto the outside when we were playing that last song. There were some pauses in the song and I was singing and I could hear one of the dogs going, it's just like, oh, I hope it doesn't sound like that coming out of me. So, hey, my kids love cats, and they've had a couple of cats over the years, but this most recent round of cats, when they first got the cats, these cats wanted absolutely nothing to do with me. I would come into the house, and if you have cats, you know what cat feet sound like on wooden floors. I would just open the door and you'd just hear, they would just run from me. They were terrified. And over the years, I guess it was about 1 or 2 years, they just kind of started to naturally warm up to me. So much so that now when I go and I see them, they kind of like me better than they like my kids. And that's kind of upsetting to my kids. One day something changed. Why is that? Why do animals, you ever notice how skeptical animals are? They don't trust so easily. They're always checking everything out. I think they see so many things we don't. Your dog knows if you're about to have a seizure. Did you know that? They sense chemical changes in your body that you aren't able to detect on your own. Your cat knows you're devastated even when you're smiling for everyone else in your life. They see these micro expressions and body language that you don't even realize you're displaying. I don't know how many of you here have a horse, but if you have a horse or you ride horses on the regular, you know that sometimes when you're riding, a horse will refuse a trail because they sense instability on the ground with their feet that you can't sense. Scripture says this about animals. The lions roar for their prey, and they seek their food from God. Another passage says, you, Lord, preserve both people and animals. In Proverbs it says, the upright, the good, the righteous, they care for the needs of their animals. Even Jesus used an animal as the baseline for compassion in one of his teachings. The Pharisees were challenging him for healing a man on a holy day, and he asked them, if any of you has a sheep and it falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will you not take hold of it and lift it out? How much more valuable is a person than a sheep? His point is that you already know animals deserve compassion, even on the Sabbath. You wouldn't let a sheep suffer, so why would you let a human suffer? In the book of Numbers, my absolute favorite animal story in the Old Testament. And it's a long one, so I won't read it to you verse for verse. But it's a story about a sorcerer, a diviner named Balaam. Can you say Balaam? Thank God none of our names are Balaam, right? His name was Balaam. He was a sorcerer. His entire job, his entire purpose in life was to connect with the spiritual realm and then explain that to people. He wasn't a novice, he was a professional. And so he is riding his donkey toward this destination that God doesn't want him going to. And God sends an angel with a sword to block his path. But here's the thing. Balaam is blind to the angel. Only the donkey can see the angel. And so she does what any sensible creature would do. She would see a giant angel waving a flaming sword and say, I'm not going that way. And she refused. And this makes Balaam angry because he doesn't see anything. So he starts striking the donkey. And then finally, God opens the donkey's mouth so it can speak, and it asks Balaam, what are you doing to me? Why are you striking me? And then God opens Balaam's eyes. He sees the angel with the sword in the path who was there to stop him. So just to make sure we have this bizarre story, who was more aware of the spiritual realm in the story? Balaam, the trained spiritual professional, or the donkey? Anybody care to answer? Yes. And oftentimes, the donkeys of our lives see more than we do. What does this mean? What do these passages mean? Why is it important? Why are we talking about animals today? Because God uses animals to help us see spiritual realities. You might think that sounds ridiculous. Not if you're a person who has seizures. Not if you're someone who has PTSD. Not if you're blind. Not if you're lonely. God didn't just create animals to be like non-player characters in this simulation. They actually mean something. Animals aren't objects to God. They are something more than that. What if when your dog stops and stares at something that you can't see when you're walking out in the dark, you pause with them and see what got their attention instead of yanking their leash? What if when your cat refuses to settle down, you take a moment to check how you're doing inside, emotionally, spiritually, instead of shooing them away? What if when the birds go suddenly silent, you paid attention like in the movies and you knew it meant a zombie apocalypse? Animals are helpers. They are friends. Those cats, my kids' cats, they are in my life to teach me something. I don't know why, but they are. Every time I'm around them, I become a little bit more of a gentle person and less of a reactive one. And for me, that's a big deal. What is it for you? What are you missing by not having animals in your lives? And I'm not asking you to go out and buy a pet after church if that's not your thing. But remember that they're there for a purpose. They're not just here to take up space. The animals you brought today are here to teach us, to wake us up, to show us what it means to be fully alive and fully present and fully aware right now. And if we can humble ourselves to learn from what many would call lesser creatures, we might actually become greater than we thought we could be in the first place. By listening to all of creation. Everything that God has created that's trying to teach us something. Amen. Michael, are you?